to put in an aerial tramway. Aerial tramways look like this one. This is at the Camp Bird mine. The terrain was so steep that there were lots of them in the San Juans. Camp Birds was 9,000 feet long, covering a vertical drop of nearly 1,400 feet. Well, Colorado mining suffered a big jolt in 1893 because in that year was the silver crash, and Colorado's over-reliance on silver became very apparent. Horace Tabor and many others lost their fortunes almost instantly. But luckily for Colorado, gold once again came to the rescue, and the first gold producer was Cripple Creek. Discovered right before 1893, a drunken cowboy named Bob Womack always insisted there was gold in Cripple Creek, and finally people began to believe him. And there was a lot of gold. It produced 27 millionaires. The Elkton mine was one of its great mines. This is its greatest mine, Stratton's Independence. Winfield Scott Stratton, who'd been the carpenter in Leadville, found and made a fortune in Cripple Creek. This was his main mine. I think it is today considered to be historically the greatest gold mine. He also owned the Portland mine nearby. He later sold the Independence to British investors and made millions. Since Stratton had no good relationship with his family, all his millions went to charity. This is the gold that Tom Walsh found in an abandoned tunnel southwest of Ouray. It had been overlooked for 19 years. What happens when you find gold like this in your mine? You get to live in a house that looks like this. Tom's 60-room mansion in Washington, D.C., 2020 Massachusetts Avenue, currently, since 1950, the Indonesian embassy. It's got a staircase that looks like that. Tom died rich. He made $8 million. Again, he too sold to a British syndicate, and his mine was so successful that it kept on producing and actually had a life of 99 years, shutting down in 1995 after it was founded in 1896. Tom's daughter, Evelyn, is famous for blowing her inheritance on the Hope Diamond. Mine labor brought mine strife. This is the explosion. Labor anarchists had blown up the Strong mine in Cripple Creek. And Cripple Creek saw lots of strife, particularly in 1894, later in 1904, 1905. Militia had to be called in. There were deaths, many more death threats, just a very, very sad state of affairs. Leadville had many strikes. This is from the 1896-97 strike. One thing the owners would do in a place like Leadville was they would exploit the ethnic differences of the miners, because miners came from all over the world, and they were Protestants and they were Catholics, and they came from parts of Europe that hated the other parts of Europe where the other miners came from. And the owners in Leadville might tell would-be union members, you know, you're Cornish and you're a Methodist, and the Irish Catholics are founding that union. Do you want to work for them? And they would do things like that, and they would break the unions. And eventually, the owners often won a hard-fought victory. The saddest incident in mining in Colorado took place here at Ludlow. This is the Ludlow UMW Hall. A strike resulted in gunfire between the strikers and militiamen. The saddest part was that the strikers had told their wives and children if they hid in a hole under the tent, they would be okay. But the tents all caught fire in the gunfire, and in the end, more women and children were killed than anybody else. This area of Colorado, in fact, major coal-producing area, but 3 of the state's worst disasters took place within just a few miles of Ludlow and Trinidad. The worst of these was in 1917 when 121 miners were killed in an explosion of the mine in the small town of Hastings. Well, there was one more trick for Colorado mining. How about taking all those processes from extraction all the way up to smelting and put them in one 1,000-ton device? And that was our famous dredge, most of which were around Breckenridge. Try to speed things up here a little bit. Another view of the dredges, which, as you can see, dug out a lot of earth. to produce a little bit of gold. Some people became rich, but it's often said that the dredgers dredged far more money from their investors' pockets than they ever made off their gold. Some dredges capsized, like this one at the Tiger Dredge at Breckenridge. And in World War II, the whole industry capsized when gold was declared to no longer be an essential industry for the war effort. What became of our mining districts? Well, the Yankee Boy Basin near Ouray has far more columbine than it does mine dumps. A beautiful place to see. Tom Walsh's famous Camp Bird mine now looks like this. It has lots of clouds, and Tom's cabin has been restored right in the middle of it. Now, let's see. I don't see Judge Brooks here today, so I have a feeling he's inside this building. This is the U.S. Custom House. The largest tenant today is the U.S. Bankruptcy Court, which is very busy. But I'm showing this picture because this is another famous Colorado mining product. This is white Yule marble from Marble, Colorado, more famous for going into the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier and the Lincoln Memorial. One of our Rotarians, Temple Buell, was the architect for the renovation of this building. Buell and the developers used a federal law that says local materials must be used, and they got the white marble from the Yule Quarry to be used in this building, even though it cost hundreds of thousands more than Indiana and Georgia marble would have cost. So next time you're by the Custom House, think of that. And, see, we're just about out of time. I was going to mention famous other kinds of mines in Colorado. Colorado had a uranium boom in the 1950s, and uranium is still very important. A janitor in Golden named Fred Schwartzwalder, who was a rock hound, found some interesting rocks one day, bought a Geiger counter. The Geiger counter went crazy, and the result was the Schwartzwalder mine, the closest uranium mine. Lots of people made money off of it, but unfortunately not Fred, its founder. The Colorado Mining Association has reminded me that mining is very alive and well. Coal is our biggest producer. 2009 figures, 2,392 employees of coal companies. Average coal miner wages, $98,000 a year. Averaging 28 million tons produced. Others, gold, the largest gold mine is at Cripple Creek in Victor. Colorado is the nation's fourth largest gold producer, first largest molybdenum producer, and we also still have lots of uranium. And with that, I think it's time, so I appreciate your attention. Mining, it's our history, it's still with us.
Thank you, John. Thank you.